Vatos, thanks again for tuning in to yet another video. Infamous here. We're going to be looking at the 1250 Custom. They might change the name of this bike. It might be something else. We've seen different variations of this bike. This frame can be absolutely anything Harley-Davidson wants it to be. It could be the touring line. It could be their track racer, their cafe bike, just kind of like what you see here, their cafe racer. It could be their street fighter like the Bronx. This frame can be adapted to just about anything Harley-Davidson has planned. And let's just go into it. Let's just talk a little bit more about it. July, what was it, 14th? That might be the release date, depending on what Harley-Davidson has planned. But let's just go into a few details here, and let me just tell you guys why I think this is a good move and why this could possibly be the best beginner motorcycle, the best beginner bike for a few reasons. But let's just look at these images. By looking at this bike, it screams Fat Bob. That's what this bike screams. You have that same triangle, you have that same feel, the drag bars, the forward controls, that triangle cafe racer. It's got those same lines like a Fat Bob. So if you're a fan of the Fat Bob look, it's got that same taste, that same flavor as the Fat Bob. It's got the inverted forks, it's got that funny headlight, it's got those big beefy wheels in the front and in the back. So it's got everything. Basically, it's a mini-me of the Fat Bob, and I do like where they're going with this. And I'm pretty sure they're also going to offer, kind of like the Bronx, or kind of like probably a Sports, or somebody mentioned Evolution. That's in reference of the Evolution engine, which is still being used for the Sportster, and Revolution. So that's the name of the new V-twin engine that they have. So this is going to be competing against the Indian Scout, which I test rode recently, and it felt good. It felt great. And then we also have the Bronx, which could also be competition for the FTR, the 1200, which is also an Indian motorcycle, and that one's also a great bike. Test rode that one too myself. I test rode the FTRS, not the carbon one, which is the one I really wanted to get on, but I test rode the FTRS and it felt great. It was a little bit tall for me. That's why I wanted to get on the carbon. It's got a lower suspension. Anyways, back on topic. Okay, looking at it from this angle, a little bit more zoomed in, we can see it's got the same controls as the Pan America. It's the same frame, so I do like the styling of these new controls. I am a fan of the classic metal casing, the feel of the controls. They're more clicky. They just have more feedback when you're clicking on the buttons on the Softail or on the Milwaukee 8 lineup. This is more of a plasticky feel, but hey, you know what? It felt great in my opinion. I did like it, and it's got that bar end mirrors to kind of give it that cafe look and style. And by the looks of it, it looks like we're gonna be having a digital display, kind of like what you have on the Chief. But I don't know if this is gonna be a touchscreen. I know that the Pan America has a touchscreen display. I don't know if they're gonna offer that with this one. Probably to kind of cut back a little bit and keep the price low. As we can see, or as we saw, the Pan America did have a good price tag. It wasn't too much. Everybody predicted that price to be over $25,000 for that bike, and it turned out to be pretty good at $17,000. Hopefully they could price this accordingly, maybe to really give Indian a run for their money, have it down somewhere around $12,000, $13,000. That would be a high price, but it would be a good price. And if they offer a rally racer or kind of a street rod, maybe around $7,000, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. A 975 or whatever. All right, so let's just look at this other model. This might be a different one. As you can see, the mirrors are in a different placement. This is more of the old school look right here. So maybe the black one might be a cafe racer. This one looks like maybe a track racer type of bike. Like I said, this might be the difference between it might be called the 1250 Custom FTR, or it might be called the 1250 CR Cafe Racer or something. They're who knows? I'm not sure what they're going to be called, but they look great. They look amazing. It looks amazing. I like the overall look. I just don't see how they're going to be able to kind of make this just with the aftermarket everything, kind of like with the V-Rod. It was really difficult to kind of get that to look more traditional because it had some really aggressive lines, just kind of like what this bike does. This does look like a mini V-Rod and a mini 48 with the big front wheel, and it's a mini of just about all those bikes, the 48, the V-Rod, And I think, yeah, maybe a little bit sprinkled rod or street rod a little bit in there too, but this looks 20 times better than those stupid street rod 750s or those 500s, and these are going to have a whole lot more power than those engines. You know what, there's a lot of stuff to kind of say, it's styling wise and all this other stuff. A lot of people are not going to like this radiator being in the front like this. They could have blended that a little bit more, kind of like what they did with the oil coolers, kind of like what they did with the V-Rod, just kind of blended in with the lines. But as you can see, it's just going to stick out a little bit. That might be a styling issue that some people just don't like. I think the Indian Scout did this a little bit better. I mean, every bike's going to have their own pros and cons, but I know for one thing for sure, the Scout Indian liquid cooled engine looks amazing on both ends. This engine, this new Revolution Max, looks hideous on the left side. It's the ugliest thing you'll ever see. On the right side of the engine, it looks amazing. It looks nice. It's beautiful. It's got that twin cam heads on the top. Yeah, as you can see, they're trying to stylize it with these lines, kind of like a push rod. They're trying to look back at their history, kind of like what the Indian Scout, that other liquid cooled engine did. They put lines in the same area just to kind of give it that look of a push rod motorcycle, of a push rod engine. And from this angle, as we can see, it's a good looking bike. Like I said, if you love that Fat Bob look, if you ride a Fat Bob look, this is probably going to be a Fat Bob on steroids. That's what it is. I'm 100% sure this is going to be a Fat Bob on steroids. The peak performance on this bike is going to be around 6,000 RPM for the torque. So I don't know. It just depends. When I test rode the Pan America, there was a lot of twisties. There was a lot of curves. I didn't really have a chance to bring it up to 6,000 RPM. I think I rode it around maybe 4,000 RPM, maybe even 5,000 RPM a few times. And you know what? 6,000 RPM, it's a little high to kind of just experience the torque of it. I don't know. I mean, it just depends. These engines are just built different, kind of like on the Scout Indian. It's got around the same torque area. I think the Scout Indian is about 6,000 RPM, so this one's going to be a little bit higher for you to feel that torque. And I believe the peak horsepower out of this engine is going to be around 9,000 RPM. So it's going to have a different feel. It's going to have a different sound. And the reason why I'm labeling this bike as a Scout Killer, it's just performance wise, and they're pretty much almost the same identical bike. Pretty much. I mean, just the specs, not the aesthetics. The weight wise, the liquid V twin cooled engine, the feel, they're almost around the same peak as in torque and horsepower in the same area. It's just that this one has a larger cc displacement, considering that the bobber is somewhere around 1100. I like I said, I'm not an expert at Indian. I don't know all their specs. I'm just looking at what I just seen. I'm just looking at what I see off of their website, and then off of what I felt when I test rode that bike, I believe this last weekend. So this could be the best beginner bike out there. A lot what I saw from Indian and from what I saw with the Pan America, the different ride modes, man, I mean, this is what I like about this bike. Someone mentioned on the test rides that this is three different bikes in one bike, and that's just the different ride modes. And then Matt Laidlaw was also mentioning that the valves can be adjusted through ECU, so you could have a different feeling bike, kind of like what Indian did with their sport mode. The Indian Chief feels completely different. You ride that thing in those three different ride modes, you are going to get three different bikes. It's three different feeling bikes. The sport mode is out of this world on the Indian Chief. Out of this world. It's amazing. So this is what I kind of like about having these different ride modes. You could brace yourself and kind of get used to the bike. If you're someone that's new with these motorcycles, these things don't weigh more than 550 pounds. That's a great weight for a beginner bike. I mean, yeah, for a beginner bike, it's good for a beginning rider. mainly because it's light, it's agile, you can move it around, you don't have to worry about it being 800, 700 pounds. When I had my Sportster and I was inviting my brother to kind of start riding, I felt like he could handle the Sportster. With my other full frame bikes, I was kind of on the fence on it. I didn't really want him to try it because just picking that thing up weighing 700 pounds, you're just kind of like, you're already terrified getting into the motorcycles. You don't know much about them, and you know they're heavy, or you know what, they don't look heavy, but once you can pick them off the kickstand, you're like, holy crap, what is this thing? I think these bikes weigh less than the Sportsters. We don't have the full numbers of these bikes. I'm just going off of the Pan America specs and numbers, so I don't know. There's no information on these bikes as of yet, but we are going to see it probably by the event. And then going into the ride modes, like I said, you could ride this thing on rain mode as a beginner. Ride it on rain mode, and then build your confidence up to the point where you work yourself up into the sport, into the standard mode, and then you just kind of take it in steps. And then once you build that confidence of moving this thing, throwing it around, you get yourself into sport mode, so you could take advantage of this great, powerful power plant that Harley-Davidson has offered. So I don't know, we're just kind of up in the fence right now. The bike looks amazing. They might bring back the Bronx. They might bring a track racer. They might do all kinds of different things. So at the end of the day, competition is good. This is gonna force Indian to kind of have their own version of whatever they want to do. I'm pretty sure they could do a few things to the FTR platform, to that frame, and then just have different variations of that bike. And they do offer that. We've seen the FTRS, we've seen the FTR Carbon, and then I believe there's another one, and they have different stances. But I'm pretty sure if they wanted to, after what Harley-Davidson has done, we're going to see Indian kind of start competing a little bit more. So this is why competition is good. Finally, Harley-Davidson has responded, and this is what they needed. That live wire has been a disaster. It was a mistake from day one, but you know what, that's not this video. You guys just stay out there, stay safe, don't believe everything you read. Life's a risk. Get out there and ride. Later.